Moving on to Indian hockey, Terry Walsh's future as the Indian hockey team coach is still not clear. The meeting between Walsh and the three-member panel set by the Sports Ministry did not produce any conclusive results on Friday. The meeting was expected to be deciding Walsh's future, but the 2.5-hour-long meeting ended with absolutely no concrete takeaways. The three-member panel is expected to submit its report to the Sports Ministry in the coming days, after which the Sports Ministry will consider making changes to Terry Walsh's new contract.
Because everything was laid in front of the committee today only. We need little more time, and next meeting is fixed on the 17th afternoon.
We've had really good discussions, and they've been open. There's nothing that's come from them with reference to decisions. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed for us to move forward.
Well, we did speak to Terry Walsh yesterday after the three-long meeting concluded, and this is what he had to say when asked on what was discussed in the meeting.
Well, there's been quite some time spent in discussing different elements, and much of it repetitive from yesterday to today. There are some issues which require some serious thinking, and it does take some time because a couple of the issues being discussed require change, but it requires some understanding as to why those changes need to be put in place, and indeed how those changes will look, not just immediately on paper, but in actual fact functionally. So it's not something that can be just an immediate yes/no type scenario. So I appreciate that, but again, it's a clear indicator of the processes that are involved in the bureaucracy.
Well, when we asked Terry Walsh whether or not there was any concrete outcome after such a long meeting, which lasted over 2 hours, this is what he said.
Look, I can't discuss any of the outcomes inside the meeting. Everybody, I think, knows what the major issues are, and they've been bandied around a little bit. Some of them not actually accurate, but I do understand those processes as well. But as to the outcomes of those, no, we're not at liberty to talk about those at this point in time.
So when asked on what his next plan was and what he was planning to raise in the next meeting, Terry Walsh said this to Headlines today.
Well, I believe that there's some further discussions going on and some decisions will be made, but in the end it's a matter of trying to put all these pieces together to come up with a final decision. And in the end, it's about a directional change in essence, and that's not an easy thing to come up with, I have to be honest. And it takes a lot of awareness and real discussion, because you're trying to link together the government side of things as well as the sports administrative side from SAI, and then you've got the Hockey India specific side. So they've all got very important roles to play, and we have to be very clear about what those roles are.
Well, we did in fact also ask him whether him wanting a 120-day leave was one of the reasons for the fallout with the concerned officials. Terry Walsh gave us this explanation.
Well, this is an example of how things get completely misconstrued. The discussion about the time away from home, the time away from the program is built around being inside my home environment. And so when the program isn't in central training and we're not doing a tournament or travelling to perform or play matches in a particular environment, and there's nothing else that's actually happening with regards to seminars or whatever may be the case and planned from Hockey India's side of things, then those periods of time I would be working from home. Now, working from that environment indeed is a cheaper option if you think about it logically. The question is, can you work from a satellite location? Quite clearly you can, and it's been proven in many businesses, and I've actually been involved in that situation quite a lot in the past. And you do get a lot of work done because there's far less interruptions, I have to say, and as long as you're diligent in what you do, you can do an enormous amount from a satellite type location. And indeed, whether you're sitting in a hotel in Delhi, or you're in Mumbai, or you're in New York, or you're in Perth, you can still get a lot of that work done with the technology that's available today, and I feel as though I'm fairly competent in utilising that.
So was he happy after meeting the panel, and were there any demands that he put forward to the ministry? Well, we did put that question to Mr. Terry Walsh.
Well, I think there's the choice of words is interesting, because I've not demanded anything, and I know that people are looking for abrupt sort of discussion points, but they're really they're requests. They're really strong requests as to how things can be altered and changed. And some of the requests I'm making, I understand that they go against what has culturally been set up in the sporting administration in India. Are they correct? In my view, they need examination and they need to be reviewed, and that's what I'm requesting to be done. And in some cases, I think that it's important that they are altered, and that's really where it all is.
And finally, what was he expecting, and what does he expect when he meets the officials again? This is what Mr. Terry Walsh said.
Well, whenever the next meeting is, I hope it gets closer to actually defining what the outcome will finally be. I think that the discussion areas have been fairly well enunciated now, and we're getting our minds around what they are and how they might look in application. So that's where it is. I would like to think that further meetings would be more decisive from the point of view of where the outcome might be.